We have to start over. Oh, I'm going to have to roll up this yarn again and make it into a ball. I'm Tiffany, and this is Scooby, and you are at Tiffany's Crafts. Today's video is how to make this cute little sweater for this Amaryllis bulb. Thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe. So for our Amaryllis sweater, the yarn that I'm using today is called Crafter's Square acrylic yarn, and it is a size medium. And we're going to start with putting a knot on our anchor peg for our loom. And a lot of people put slip knots on the anchor peg. I just make a regular knot. However you prefer. Just make sure that it's an easy knot to pull out, because you're only going to have this knot on your anchor peg for a couple of rows. And it's very important to remember to take the yarn off the anchor peg. So okay, so we're going to start with an E-wrap. And what we're doing is that we are wrapping it twice around the peg. To make your E-wrap cast on, I'm going to start with the anchor peg. And we're going to be going this direction, just counterclockwise, and we wrap twice. And then we let the yarn go behind the peg where we wanted to do the next stitch, which is this peg here. So we're going to put our material behind, and then we are going to go around twice. And the reason why we go around twice is eventually when we have enough pegs done, we're going to put the yarn that's on the bottom, and we're going to knit off, which means we're going to put this material over this one. And I'll show you how to do that. And again, if you have any questions on how to do this, or you want to see a more video that's tutorial on how to do this, I do have one on my YouTube page, Tiffany's Crafts. And you want to make sure that when you're doing this, that your tension is light, so you're not wrapping tightly. Why? Because when you get to the end, these where you're knit off are going to be tight. So that's why you want to make sure that you wrap lightly, but not too lightly, about like how this looks on the video. And if you ever do a project where your loom is bigger, you're going to want to knit off before you get to the end here. You want to do it like every few pegs, especially when we are doing the U-wrap, which will be round 1. So I'll give you an example. We have done a few so far, so we're just going to knit off by going like this. So it's good practice to knit off after you do E-wrap on a few pegs. But it's not necessary, but I would suggest it. Makes it a lot easier. And not just for the E-wrap cast on, but for all your rounds or rows. Okay, so just keep doing this until we get to the end. And then we will begin row 1. We just finished our E-wrap cast on. And I like to push my thread down on the loom a little bit. And as your project gets bigger, you want to do that. As your project grows from here downward, from this direction. So we're going to start and do all of our rows, starting row 1 until you're done with U-wrap. So U-wrap is done. Now we're working counterclockwise around the loom, and we're just going to go around the first peg that we began at, and we want our material to go halfway across the back side of our peg, and we don't hold it too tightly at all because this is going to be a tight stitch. So we're just going to loosely hold our yarn tail. And then we're going to knit off by taking our material from the bottom, from our cast on, and going up and over. See, what we were doing is we were taking off the yarn that was on the peg. That yarn, that loop is right here now. And we have our first U-wrap done. So we're going to do that again. So again, we're just going to have our material halfway on to the peg itself. As you see, there's no yarn here, just right here, okay? And then we're going to knit off by taking our bottom loop. We're going to take this cast on that we did, and we're going to take it off of the peg, and then this U-wrap is going to remain on to the peg. Now our U-wrap is on the peg. And we're going to continue doing that. Now, you can make sure that you take this knot off of your anchor peg after you've done a couple rows. But it's very important to make sure that you do take that anchor peg off. So we're going to take our yarn and we're going to wrap it in front of the peg where it's halfway going across the back side of the peg. We're going to knit off. And we're going to do one at a time, holding our tension pretty loose. And this stitch is a very tight stitch, and it's a small stitch. So the thickest yarn that you want to go with is a medium. You don't want to use bulky yarn for this. Now for our Amaryllis sweater that we're making, you want to make sure that you measure that bulb so you know how big the height should be for your sweater that you're making. Now, the last sweater that I made, the pink one, my bulb was 4 inches. It was a big bulb. And for the sweater that I'm making now, my bulb is a lot smaller. So we're just going to measure the height of the bulb, starting from the base of the bulb, not from the roots, but from the base to the stem of the bulb. And don't have to worry about the circumference because our loom is going to be making the circumference of the sweater. So you want to use your smaller loom for it. And when you have your sweater made and you put your sweater on your bulb, this is just a temporary sweater. You don't want to keep the sweater on the bulb even when the bulb starts, after it's done blooming and it starts making leaves. You don't want to do that. After it makes a nice stalk and you want to put your bulb in dirt, then you need to take your sweater off of your bulb, because it'll actually do damage to the bulb if the sweater is touching the dirt. Okay, so we are now on row 2. And if you look on the back side, you can see your E-wrap, and that's what your E-wrap is going to look like. But when you have more rows done of your U-wrap, it will look different because it's a different stitch. So I always like to use a tally marker when I am making my projects, or you can also just write it down on a piece of paper. when I was making all my hats, I used paper. Just wrote it on paper. So you don't have to worry about joining or doing anything special when you go to the next row. You're just going to continue doing your U-wrap. And then by the time you get done with this row, you're going to want to make sure again that you take the knot off of the yarn that's on your anchor peg. And the only reason why I'm repeating that is because it's so important. Now your whole project is going to be done with U-wrap, and then when you get to the very end of your project, we're going to be doing a bind off. I believe it's going to be a drawstring bind off, and I'll show you how to do that. That's very easy. Now we are beginning our project, and this is going to be the bottom of the sweater. And then when we're done with the sweater, we'll be working at the top of the sweater. Then after we do our drawstring bind off, we're going to take the material off of the loom and put the sweater on the bulb. And then we're going to tighten the drawstring bind off onto the bulb. And the reason why we do that is to make sure that it fits the sweater correctly. And we're just tightening it. We're not going to completely close the drawstring bind off. And we're going to close it until it's about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, depending on how big your stem is on the bulb. And I'll show you how to do that. These are all very simple projects to do. No problem. And I do explain it further in the pattern that I've included in the video. Okay, so we're getting ready now to do row 3. So I'm just going to take off that knot off the anchor peg, and it's just loosely going to hang, and it's going to hang from behind our anchor pegs, just like that. So you are going to begin to see the U-wrap and how it looks from the front side, right here in front. And it's just going to look like little V stitches. And this is your V right here. I just finished the U-wrap, and it's looking really nice. I'm really happy with the way it's looking. And this bulb that I'm going to be putting on the sweater is smaller than the first bulb that I used for the pink one. So this is my bulb that I'm going to be working with, and it's about half the size. And I made this a little bit smaller than the pink one. I did about 31 rows on it, and on the pink pink sweater, I think I did about 36. So we're going to do bind off, and this is called Drawstring Bind Off. And so we're going to wrap our yarn twice around the loom. So you want about 20 to 24 inches of a yarn tail. If you hear my little dog Scooby barking in the background. Okay, now we're going to cut it. We are painting and restoring a statue, and I will be posting that online shortly for you to see. Okay, so now after this, we're going to thread our needle. All right, so we just got done cutting our yarn tail, and we are doing the drawstring bind off, and we're going to thread our needle. You can have a metal needle or a plastic. I got this from my knitting machine when I purchased my knitting machine. Okay, so you're going to take the yarn that's on the loom and take it off. The best way to do that is through a bind off. So we're just going to put our needle through the top. I'll show you how this is quite easy. Okay, so we've put our needle through like that, and you're just going to pull through. Okay, and we're just going to keep repeating this. And we are continuing the drawstring bind off. Okay, and you're going to continue doing this with all of your pegs until you have gone completely all the way around. And I will see you at the end, and I will show you what to do next. So we are now at the beginning. We just finished our drawstring bind off, right? We're at the beginning here. But I'm going to go beyond the beginning and just do a few extra pegs. Okay, now from here, we are just going to take our loom pick and we're going to take the yarn off of the pegs. And I will see you when that's done. We just finished our Drawstring Bind Off, and this is what we have left for our project. We have the bottom of the sweater, and this is the top. The top is where we did the Drawstring Bind Off. Now we're going to put our sweater on our bulb. Okay, now this is our tail that we have here, and we're just going to close this to about 1.5 inches of still having an opening. And the way that you close this is you put a little pressure by just holding the material of your sweater, and you're just going to pull your drawstring, your yarn, your working yarn. And it's going to go slow, and it's just going to close. Then you're going to leave a little bit opened here, so your stem, you can see your stem on your loom. And then you just readjust the sweater on the bulb to make it fit. And then you have your cute little sweater. And then your next step from here is you're going to knot this. You're just going to do a double knot, or however you prefer to make your knots. I always like to double knot everything when I am making my loom, my projects with my loom. And you're going to put this knot as close as you can to your drawstring bind off. That's pretty good. And we're going to make one more. So you have the option of taking your scissors and just cutting it right here if you want to, or you can weave in the ends. I'm going to weave in the ends. Now my yarn is pretty long, so I'm going to cut most of this. And I'll show you how to weave in the ends. You're just going to thread your yarn needle, and I'm going to try to work on the inside so you don't see so much of this working yarn. And you can choose any stitch that you want to weave in your ends. So now that I've worked towards the back, and a lot of people just keep on weaving their ends until their yarn is, the yarn tail is completely gone. But I'm going to cut mine. And you got a nice cute little sweater for your Amaryllis bulb. And there are things that you can do with this. You can make a mock button, and you can crochet that, and I'll show you how to do that. Or you can just keep it as is. You can put actual buttons on it if you want. I'm going to show you another way to make a magic circle. Instead of crocheting it, we're going to be using the loom. And this is the result of what it looks like when you're done. It is a little bit smaller than the crocheted circle that I made. So we could make it the same size if you want. And I'll show you how to do this. So use our loom, and we're only going to work on 2 pegs. We're going to start by making a knot on the anchor peg. We're going to do an E-wrap cast on both pegs. Then we're going to do E-wrap stitch, and we're going to do about 6 rows. Now this was done with 6 rows, and if you wanted to make it bigger, like if you had done 6 rows, well, six single crochets in the magic circle, it would be bigger. So if you want it to be the same size, you'd probably have to do 12 rows on the loom. So I'll show you how to do this. This is quite easy. So you're going to start with making a knot on your anchor peg. Okay, sorry. I'm going to go clockwise. Wrap around twice. Okay. So we're going to clockwise, wrap around twice. I'm working from left to right. And we're going to knit off. Seems a little tight. Okay. All right, so now we have our cast on. Now we're going to, we're at peg 2, we're going to go back to peg 1, and we're just going to wrap halfway like that. So it's going to look like this. We're going to go halfway, and it's going to appear to have two loops around the peg, and we're going to knit off, and then we're going to do that again. It's that way, and we're going to knit off. So what we're doing is we're taking off the yarn that's on the peg. We're going to take it off of the loom, and this is going to remain on the loom. So then we have row 1 done. Now we're going to do 2, row 2, and we're just going to keep on doing this till we get to about 6. Okay, so I did about 8. Okay, so now we're going to take this on row 2, our loop on row 2, and we're going to put it on, our loop on peg 2, and we're going to remove it and put it on peg 1. Okay, so now what we have is no material on peg 2, and then peg 1 we have 2 loops. Okay, so now we're going to do cast off and a bind off. So we're going to start by cutting material, cutting our working yarn. I'm going to make it kind of long so I can sew it well onto the sweater. Okay, now that we have that cut off, we are going to take our yarn needle and we're going to thread it. Okay, and we're going to do a bind off. We're just going to remove the knot on the anchor peg first. And I usually take that, put it on the inside. There, just like that. Okay, now we're going to do our cast off or bind off by putting our yarn needle through the bottom of the first loop that we made, and then the second, just like that. And then I'm going to pull through. Just like that. Now we're going to take both loops off of the peg 1. Kind of looks like a chain stitch there. Now we're going to pull this gently. It's not going to make a circle, but we're just pulling it, okay? Because what we're doing here is it's kind of knotting it a little bit by pulling it, okay? So now we've got this cute little chain. Now we're going to form the circle. Just like that. And it looks a lot like an alternative circle. Now this one's a little bit bigger, so you're going to see the circle more. But if you had made less rounds, it would have been smaller. My goodness, this is so cute. I'm just thinking of more Christmas craft projects to do just by looking at this little circle here that we could do with the loom. And when I post them, if you subscribe to my page, you will get updates on when these videos are posted. Oh, I appreciate so much if you do subscribe. Okay, so we're just knotting this. I double knotted it. Okay, now you have your little circle, your mock button. So we have two made, one a lot smaller than the other, depending on what size you like. And it looks a lot like a crocheted magic ring, because you still have your it looks like your single crochet going across here, and that's what we have. And there's your little circle, and then what you can do is we can hand sew it onto our sweater, and then that's a nice little way to be able to make a magic ring or alternative circle using your loom.
Let's crochet round two.
Now that we have our cute little sweater made, we're going to make some we're going to make some buttons. So the smaller the crochet hook, the better, because we don't want the button to be too chunky. If you want the button to be chunkier, you'll use a bigger crochet hook. This is a 3.50 mm. And we're going to be doing single crochet, and that's American terms. And it's often called double crochet throughout the rest of the world. So we're going to start with making an X over our fingers. Take our crochet hook. I'm assuming that you don't know how to do a magic ring or alternative circle. If you need some extra help with this, you can also look at my video. I have a video on how to make this. It's called Magic Circle versus Alternative Ring or something like that. So you're just going to put your crochet hook down like that. And then you're going to take this one here and pull through. Okay, now you've got a nice slip knot, and this is how I hold my thread. Okay, let me do that again. Okay, so now we have a circle here. We're not going to close it all the way through, like how I just did. We have a little circle, and we are going to do some single crochets into the circle. Wrap hook, put crochet hook into the circle, wrap your material, pull through the circle, wrap your material and pull all through. Okay. So now we're going to put our hook through, circle, wrap hook. Okay, now you have two loops on your hook. Wrap through, pull through. And there's no reason to rush through this. the way that I tighten the circle is I pull this string a little bit, and it kind of tightens it a little bit. Okay, so we have 3, and we're going to make a few more. Okay, it's 5, and we're going to do one more. Okay, and then I'm going to close this a little bit. Now we are going to find our first stitch that we did all the way over in here. I'm going to close this a little bit more. Okay, now we're going to find our first stitch that we did, which is right here. And we're going to put our hook through it. Then we're going to wrap our hook, pull through. And now we got 2 loops on your crochet hook. You're going to wrap, pull through. Okay, now we're going to cut it. So we're going to knot it, and the way that we knot it is we're going to wrap the working yarn that we just cut around the crochet hook, pull through the loop, and then we're just going to keep pulling through. And then we're going to tighten that, and that's going to knot it. Okay, and then you have your little your cute little button. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut this little string here. And then we've got this extra string here that we're working with, and what we're going to do is we're going to knot it. You can double knot it, single knot it, can knot it any way that you prefer. There's many ways to make a knot. I kind of knot it like how you tie a shoe, kind of like that. Okay, so I made my first knot. I want to make the second one. Okay, so we have our first little one done. So then we're going to take our yarn needle and we are going to sew it onto here.
Thank you for watching my video. Please subscribe and like. This is Scooby.